They say trust is the foundation of any marriage, but what happens when that foundation crumbles beneath your feet? My name is David Patterson, and for 12 years I believed I had built something unshakable with my wife, Jennifer. We weren't perfect, no couple is, but we had what I thought was real. We had history, shared dreams, and a beautiful 10-year-old daughter named Emma, who meant everything to both of us. I worked as a senior project manager at a tech firm in Austin, Texas, pulling long hours but always making time for family dinners and weekend trips. Jennifer worked part-time as a dental hygienist, a job she loved because it gave her flexibility to be there when Emma got home from school. Our life looked picture-perfect from the outside. We owned a comfortable 4-bedroom house in a good neighborhood, took annual vacations to places like Colorado and California, and hosted barbecues where friends would tell us they envied what we had. I remember thinking, just 6 months before everything fell apart, that I was one of the lucky ones. I'd found my person early, married her at 26, and never looked back. But beneath that polished surface, something had been rotting for longer than I knew. The signs were there. I just didn't want to see them. The late-night texts she'd quickly dismiss as work stuff. The new interest in her appearance, hitting the gym 5 times a week when she'd previously gone maybe twice a month. The way she'd started picking fights over trivial things, as if trying to create distance between us. The gradual decrease in physical intimacy that I'd chalked up to stress and the natural ebb and flow of a long marriage. I told myself I was being paranoid. I trusted her. We'd built a life together, made vows, created a family. People don't just throw that away, right? Wrong. So incredibly wrong. This is the story of how I discovered the truth. How my marriage imploded in the span of a few devastating weeks, and how I fought back against the betrayal that nearly destroyed me. This isn't a tale of redemption or forgiveness. It's about survival, justice, and making sure that actions have consequences. Because when someone breaks your trust, dismantles your family, and shows no remorse for the wreckage they've caused, sometimes the only path forward is to ensure they understand exactly what they've lost. The first crack appeared on a Tuesday evening in late September. I'd left work early, a rare occurrence, because my last meeting had been canceled. The Austin traffic was mercifully light, and I found myself pulling into our driveway at 4:30 instead of my usual 6:15. Jennifer's car was in the garage, which surprised me. She typically picked Emma up from school around 3:30, but Tuesdays were Emma's art class days, which ran until 5. Jennifer should have been at the school or running errands. I grabbed my laptop bag and headed inside through the garage entrance. The house was quiet except for faint music coming from upstairs. Not unusual. Jennifer often played music while doing housework or getting ready for something. But as I climbed the stairs, I heard something else. Laughter. Her laughter, bright and uninhibited in a way I hadn't heard directed at me in months. My hand froze on the bedroom door handle when I heard a man's voice. "You're incredible, you know that?" My heart hammered against my ribcage. There had to be an explanation. Maybe she was on the phone. Maybe she was watching something on her laptop. Maybe. I opened the door. They were on our bed. My wife and a man I'd never seen before, both partially undressed, caught in a moment that shattered 12 years of my life in an instant. The scene burned itself into my memory with cruel clarity. Jennifer's shocked face, her mouth forming an O of surprise, the stranger scrambling to grab his shirt, the rumpled sheets that we'd picked out together 3 years ago at that home goods store. "David!" Jennifer's voice was sharp with panic. "You're home early. This isn't—" "Get out!" My voice came out calmer than I felt, each word measured and cold. I was looking at the man, who appeared to be in his early 30s, athletic build, expensive watch. Get dressed and get out of my house. Now. Look, man, I didn't, he started. Now. He moved quickly after that, grabbing his clothes and practically running past me. I heard his footsteps thunder down the stairs, heard the front door slam. Through our bedroom window, I watched a silver BMW speed out of our neighborhood. Jennifer had pulled on a robe and was sitting on the edge of the bed, tears streaming down her face. David, please, let me explain. How long? I asked, still standing in the doorway, unable to bring myself to enter the room that had become a crime scene in my mind. It's not what you think. How long? The calm had cracked, and fury poured through. How long have you been sleeping with him in our bed? In the house where our daughter lives? She flinched. 3 months. But David, it's not serious. It was just 3 months. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. 3 months of lying to my face. 3 months of me being an idiot. I never meant for this to happen. You're always working, we never talk anymore, and he made me feel. Stop. I held up my hand. I don't want to hear it. Not right now. I turned and walked down the hall to the guest bedroom, grabbed my gym bag from the closet, and started throwing clothes into it. Jennifer followed me, still crying, still trying to explain, to justify, to somehow make this my fault. I spent that first night in a hotel near the office, one of those extended stay places with a kitchenette I wouldn't use and abstract art bolted to the walls. The kind of anonymous space where people land when their lives fall apart. Jennifer called 17 times. I didn't answer. She texted another dozen messages, apologies, explanations, pleas to think of Emma. I read them all with the same detached interest I'd give a stranger's grocery list. Each one felt like it was written by someone I'd never actually known. The thing about discovering your wife's infidelity is that it detonates everything you thought was solid. I kept replaying our conversations from the past few months, searching for the lies I'd missed. How many times had she said, "I love you," while planning to meet him? How many family dinners had she sat through while texting him under the table? I called in sick Wednesday morning, first time in 3 years. Then I drove to a law office in downtown Austin that a colleague had recommended after his divorce 2 years ago. The attorney's name was Brian Caldwell, and his office had the kind of leather furniture and mahogany shelving that suggested he won more cases than he lost. I need to file for divorce, I told him, after the receptionist showed me in. And I need to move fast. Caldwell was mid-50s, graying at the temples, with the calm demeanor of someone who'd heard every terrible story twice. He gestured to a chair across from his desk. Tell me what happened. I laid out the basics, came home early, found them together. She admitted to 3 months. I had no interest in reconciliation. He took notes on a legal pad, nodding occasionally. Do you have children? A daughter, Emma, she's 10. And you want custody? Joint, probably. I'm not trying to keep Emma from her mother. The words tasted bitter. But I want documentation of everything. I want this divorce to be ironclad. Smart. Caldwell set down his pen. Texas is a no-fault state, which means the affair itself won't necessarily impact the divorce settlement. But it can matter for custody considerations if we can show it affected your daughter's well-being or created an unstable environment. She brought him into our home, I said, into our bed, while our daughter was at school. That helps. He made another note. I'll need you to write down everything you remember. Times, dates, any evidence you have, photos, texts, anything concrete. I thought about Jennifer's phone, which I hadn't touched. I don't have access to her messages. Don't try to get them, Caldwell warned. Texas is a one-party consent state for recordings, but accessing someone's phone without permission can create legal problems. We'll work with what you witnessed directly. We spent the next hour going through the mechanics. Asset division, timeline for filing, temporary custody arrangements. Caldwell explained that I'd need to establish a separate residence, which I'd already done. He recommended a forensic accountant to review our finances. Sometimes affairs come with financial deception, he said. Hotel rooms, gifts, unexplained expenses. If she's been hiding money or running up debt, we need to know. I hadn't even thought of that. Another layer of potential betrayal to excavate. I left his office with a retainer agreement signed and a checklist of documents to gather. Bank statements, tax returns, mortgage papers, Emma's school records. The paperwork of dismantling a life. Jennifer was waiting on the front porch when I got home that afternoon. She stood up as I pulled into the driveway, arms wrapped around herself despite the warm September weather. David, please. We need to talk. I walked past her to unlock the front door. I have nothing to say to you. She followed me inside. Emma keeps asking where you are. I told her you had to travel for work, but she's worried. She can tell something's wrong. That stopped me. I turned to face her in the entryway. What did you expect me to do? Come home and pretend everything's fine? No, Her eyes were red, makeup smudged. She looked like she'd been crying for hours. I made a terrible mistake. I know that. But we have a daughter, David. We have 12 years together. That has to count for something. It did count for something, I said. Right up until Tuesday afternoon. I ended it. The words came out in a rush. I told him it's over. I blocked his number. I'll do whatever it takes to fix this. I laughed, a short, bitter sound. You ended it because you got caught. And there's nothing to fix, Jennifer. This marriage is done. Don't say that. She reached for my arm, but I stepped back. People work through this. We can go to counseling. I met with a divorce attorney this morning, I said. He's filing papers next week. The color drained from her face. You can't be serious. Completely serious. But Emma? We'll be fine. I cut her off. We'll work out custody. You'll still see her. But you and I are finished. She sank onto the stairs, head in her hands. I don't understand how you can just throw everything away. The audacity of that statement nearly knocked me sideways. I'm not the one who threw it away. You did that when you decided to sleep with someone else in our bed. It wasn't about you, she said quietly. It was about me feeling invisible, feeling like I didn't matter anymore. So you had an affair. I kept my voice level. Instead of talking to me, instead of suggesting counseling, instead of doing literally anything else, you decided to betray everything we built. I know it was wrong. I don't care. The words came out harder than I intended. I don't care why you did it. I don't care how you justified it to yourself. The only thing I care about now is making sure Emma's okay and moving forward. I headed upstairs to pack more clothes. Jennifer stayed on the stairs crying softly. Part of me, some small, dying part, wanted to comfort her. 12 years of marriage had trained me to respond to her tears. But I pushed that instinct down and kept packing. When I came back downstairs with a duffel bag, she was still there. I need you to be out of the house when I pick up Emma from school tomorrow, I said. I'm going to tell her we're separating. I won't tell her why. That's not appropriate for a 10-year-old. But she deserves to hear it from me. I should be there too, Jennifer protested. No. I opened the front door. You lost the right to coordinate this with me. I'll tell her tomorrow. You can talk to her after if you want, but I'm doing this alone. David, I left before she could finish. Got in my car and drove back to the hotel, where I sat in the parking lot for 20 minutes, trying to figure out how to tell my daughter that her family was breaking apart. That night, I started going through our bank statements. Caldwell's comment about financial deception had lodged itself in my brain, and I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more I didn't know. Our checking account looked normal at first. Groceries, utilities, Emma's school expenses. But when I pulled up Jennifer's credit card statements, I found charges I didn't recognize. A hotel in downtown Austin from 2 months ago. Dinner at an expensive restaurant I'd never been to. A charge from a boutique clothing store for $400. I kept digging. More hotel charges, spread out over the past 3 months. Always on days when I'd been traveling for work or working late. The affair had been more extensive than she'd admitted. 3 months was probably when it started, but they'd been seeing each other regularly. Spending money we'd saved together on their secret relationship. Then I found something that made my blood run cold. A payment to the VA, Department of Veterans Affairs, $500, dated from last month with a note that said, "Overpayment return." Jennifer had never been in the military. I'd known her since college. She'd gone straight from undergrad to dental hygiene school. There was no military service in her background. I pulled up more statements going back further. There, another VA payment 6 months ago, and another one before that. Not payments to the VA, but from the VA. Direct deposits into a separate account I didn't recognize, labeled disability compensation. My hands were shaking as I logged into our tax returns from last year. There it was, buried in the miscellaneous income. VA disability benefits. Nearly $30,000. For a service-connected disability Jennifer didn't have, from military service that never existed. I sat back in the hotel desk chair, mind racing. This wasn't just an affair. This was fraud. Federal fraud. And I was going to find out exactly how deep it went. The silence in Brian's office felt heavy as I stared at the bank statements spread across his mahogany desk. 3 days had passed since I'd uncovered the VA payments. 3 days of digging through every financial record I could access. What I'd found made my stomach turn. "Walk me through this again," Brian said, his pen poised over a legal pad. "You're certain Jennifer never served in the military?" "Positive." I pulled out my phone and opened the photos I'd taken. I've got our marriage certificate, her employment history, tax returns going back 15 years. She worked at a dental office in California before we moved to Austin. Before that, she was in college. There's no gap where military service would fit. Brian studied the documents, his expression darkening. And these deposits started when? 4 years ago, September 2019. I slid another printout across the desk. Monthly payments of $2,147 deposited into an account at a different bank. I only found it because I was searching our tax returns and noticed we'd never claimed this income. How much total? Just over $136,000. Brian let out a low whistle. That's not pocket change. That's federal fraud on a significant scale. He tapped his pen against the pad. The question is whether Jennifer is the primary actor here or if someone else is using her identity. I'd been wrestling with that same question for 3 days. The account is in her name. I called the bank, pretended to be confirming our accounts for tax purposes. They verified it's her social security number, her date of birth. She had to have opened it herself. Could be identity theft, Brian mused. Someone steals her information, files a fraudulent claim. Then why would the money go into an account she controls? I shook my head. And there's something else. I found a storage unit rental agreement in her email. Unit 247 at Safekeep Storage on Lamar Boulevard. Monthly payments of $195 started the same month as the VA deposits. Brian's eyebrows rose. You think she's hiding something there? I think she's hiding everything there. I pulled up the email on my phone. The rental agreement lists her as the sole authorized accessor. I'm not on it. I never knew it existed. We need to see what's in that unit. Brian leaned back in his chair. But we have to be careful. If you break in, anything you find could be inadmissible. And if she's involved in federal fraud, we're talking about evidence in a criminal case, not just a divorce. So what do I do? First, we need to verify whether there is an actual VA claim in her name. Brian pulled out his laptop and started typing. I have a contact at the VA regional office. Let me reach out, see what we can find out through official channels. I watched him compose the email, my mind racing through possibilities. The affair partner's face flashed through my memory. Early 30s, expensive watch, that silver BMW in my driveway. Could he be connected to this? Military records, VA benefits, fraudulent claims, that required expertise, connections, inside knowledge. Brian, what if her affair partner is involved? He looked up from his laptop. You think he's helping her commit fraud? I think it's too much of a coincidence. The affair started 3 months ago, but these payments have been coming for 4 years. Maybe they've known each other longer than that. Maybe the affair is just the latest development in a longer relationship. Brian nodded slowly. That would make sense. VA fraud isn't something you just stumble into. Someone had to know how to file the claim, how to create supporting documentation, how to navigate the system. He made a note on his legal pad. Did you get a good look at him? Anything that might help identify him? Not really. I was more focused on getting him out of my house. The memory still burned. Standing in my bedroom doorway, watching a stranger scramble for his clothes. But I have his license plate number. I wrote it down after he drove away. That's something. Brian held out his hand. Give it to me. I'll have an investigator run it. I recited the number from memory. I'd repeated it so many times in my head that week that it was burned in permanently. Brian wrote it down and immediately sent a text to someone. Now, about that storage unit, he said. Legally, since it's in her name only, you don't have access rights. But Jennifer doesn't know you found out about it yet, does she? No, I haven't confronted her about any of this. Good. Keep it that way. Brian closed his laptop. Here's what we're going to do. I'm going to file a motion for financial discovery as part of the divorce proceedings. We'll request all bank accounts, all assets, all sources of income. She'll be legally required to disclose everything, including that account and the storage unit. If she lies or omits information, that's perjury and fraud upon the court. And if she cleans out the storage unit before then? That's why we're going to move fast. I'll have the motion filed by tomorrow morning. In the meantime, my investigator can conduct surveillance on the storage facility. If she shows up and starts removing items, we'll document it. He gave me a hard look. But you stay away from there, understand? No matter how tempting it is to go check it out yourself, you don't go near that place. I nodded, though part of me wanted to drive straight to safekeep storage and break into that unit. 4 years of fraudulent VA payments, a secret bank account, a hidden storage facility. What else had Jennifer been lying about? There's one more thing, I said. The VA payments. They're listed as disability compensation for PTSD. 100% disability rating. Brian's expression hardened. PTSD from military service she never had. Right. Which means somewhere in the VA system there's a service record with her name on it. Medical evaluations, treatment history, maybe even a DD-214 discharge form. All of it fake. Or stolen from someone else, Brian said quietly. Identity theft of actual veterans is more common than you'd think. Someone takes a real veteran service record, swaps out the personal information, and suddenly you have a complete, verified military history. The thought made me sick. So some real veteran out there might have had their identity stolen? Their service record used to commit fraud? Possibly. We won't know until we can examine the actual claim file. Brian checked his watch. My contact at the VA should get back to me within 48 hours. In the meantime, I want you to gather everything you can about Jennifer's background. College transcripts, old employment records, anything that establishes a timeline of where she was and what she was doing going back at least 10 years. I can do that. I stood, gathering the bank statements and printouts. What about Emma? The custody hearing is scheduled for next month. This complicates things, Brian admitted. If Jennifer is charged with federal fraud, the court will take that into consideration for custody. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Right now, we focus on documentation and discovery. We build an airtight case, and we let the evidence speak for itself. I left Brian's office with my head spinning. 4 years. Jennifer had been committing federal fraud for 4 years. Collecting disability benefits meant for veterans who'd actually served, who'd actually suffered. And I'd been completely oblivious, working long hours at my tech job while she built this elaborate scheme. My phone buzzed as I reached my car. A text from Jennifer. We need to talk about Emma's parent-teacher conference next week. Can you make it Thursday at 3? I stared at the message, at the casual normalcy of it. She was still pretending everything was fine, still playing the role of concerned co-parent. She had no idea I'd found the VA payments, the secret account, the storage unit. I typed back, I'll be there. Two could play at this game. If Jennifer wanted to pretend everything was normal, I'd let her. Right up until the moment Brian's financial discovery motion landed in her lap and her entire house of cards came crashing down. I spent the next morning at my desk pretending to review project timelines while actually researching federal fraud prosecution. The rabbit hole went deeper than I'd imagined. Veterans Affairs fraud wasn't just a civil matter. It was a federal crime carrying up to 10 years in prison. Add identity theft if she'd stolen a real veteran's information, and the penalties doubled. My phone buzzed. Brian Caldwell. David, we need to talk about the financial discovery timeline, he said when I answered. I'm filing the motion this afternoon, but there's something you should know. Once we file, Jennifer's attorney will advise her to get ahead of any potential problems. If she's smart, she'll start covering her tracks immediately. I leaned back in my chair, watching clouds drift past my office window. How long before she has to respond? 30 days to provide complete financial disclosure. But here's the thing. I think we should move faster on the VA fraud angle. If she destroys evidence or tries to flee, we lose our leverage. What are you suggesting? Contact the VA Office of Inspector General today. Not tomorrow, not next week. Today. His voice carried an urgency I hadn't heard before. They have a fraud hotline specifically for this kind of thing. You report it, they investigate, and once federal agents are involved, she can't make it disappear. I pulled up the VA OIG website on my computer. The fraud reporting page stared back at me, clinical and official. What exactly do I tell them? Everything. The payments, the timeline, the fact that she never served. They'll want documentation. Send them the bank statements, screenshots of the deposits, anything showing the money trail. He paused. David, I've seen fraud cases before, but this one's different. The VA takes stolen benefits seriously because every dollar she took was meant for someone who actually served. They'll come down hard. Good, I said. The word came out colder than I intended. One more thing. Don't tell Jennifer you're doing this. Don't hint at it. Don't threaten her with it. Just make the report and let the investigators do their job. If she knows what's coming, she'll lawyer up and start building a defense. After we hung up, I sat motionless for 10 minutes, staring at the fraud reporting form. My finger hovered over the keyboard. This wasn't just divorce anymore. This was federal prosecution, potential prison time, a criminal record that would follow her forever. Emma would grow up with a mother behind bars. But then I thought about the number. $136,000. Money stolen from a system designed to help people who'd sacrificed everything for their country. People who'd actually earned those benefits through service and suffering. I started typing. The form asked for detailed information. The subject's name, address, social security number, description of the fraud, supporting evidence. I included everything: the bank account statements, the deposit history, the dates the payments began, Jennifer's complete lack of military service. I attached screenshots showing 4 years of monthly deposits labeled VA Disability Compensation. In the narrative section, I wrote, "My wife, Jennifer Marie Patterson, has been receiving VA disability benefits for PTSD related to military service. I have recently discovered that she never served in any branch of the United States military. I have verified this through multiple sources and can find no record of her service. The payments total over $136,000 received over approximately 4 years. I believe this constitutes federal fraud and potentially identity theft of an actual service member." My hand shook slightly as I clicked Submit. The confirmation page appeared. "Your report has been received. A case number has been assigned. VA OIG 2024-047832. An investigator will contact you within 5 to 7 business days." I took a screenshot and emailed it to Brian. His response came within minutes. "Good. Now we wait. Don't change your behavior around Jennifer. Act normal. Let her think everything's proceeding as a standard divorce." That evening, I picked up Emma from school as usual. She climbed into the car with her backpack and a rolled-up poster from art class. "Look what I made, Dad." She unfurled it. A watercolor painting of our house, complete with stick figure versions of the 3 of us in the front yard. My throat tightened. "It's beautiful, sweetheart." Mrs. Palmer said it shows good use of perspective. She pointed at details she'd added: flowers in the garden, our car in the driveway, even the bird feeder hanging from the oak tree. "Can we hang it in my room?" "Absolutely." She chattered about her day as we drove, a math test she thought she'd aced, drama with her friend Ashley over a group project, plans for an upcoming field trip. Normal 10-year-old concerns in a world that was about to implode. When we got home, Jennifer's car sat in the driveway. She'd been getting home earlier lately, probably trying to demonstrate what a devoted mother and wife she could be. The reconciliation campaign had intensified over the past week. Texts about how much she missed me, suggestions for couples therapy, promises that she'd changed. I'd responded minimally, enough to seem like I was considering it, not enough to commit to anything. Emma ran inside ahead of me. I found them in the kitchen, Jennifer helping her with a snack while asking about school. The picture of maternal devotion. David. Jennifer looked up, her smile cautious. I made dinner. I thought maybe we could all eat together, like we used to. Emma's face lit up. Please, Dad. Mom made spaghetti. I couldn't say no without disappointing my daughter. Sure, that sounds nice. The meal was surreal. Jennifer played the perfect wife, asking about my day, laughing at Emma's stories, refilling water glasses. If I didn't know better, I'd think we were a normal family having a normal Tuesday dinner. But I did know better. I knew about the affair, the fraud, the secret bank account. I knew that somewhere in this woman's past was a decision to steal from veterans, to build a life funded by money she had no right to claim. You seem distracted, Jennifer said, as Emma cleared her plate. Everything okay at work? Just a complicated project. I met her eyes across the table. Lots of moving pieces, hard to keep track of who's doing what. Well, don't work too hard. Her hand reached across the table toward mine, stopping just short of touching. You need to take care of yourself. Emma excused herself to work on homework. The moment she left, Jennifer's expression shifted, became more vulnerable, more desperate. David, I know things are difficult right now. I know I destroyed your trust. Her voice dropped to barely above a whisper. But we can fix this. I'll do whatever it takes. Therapy, counseling, complete transparency. Just please don't give up on us. Part of me, the part that had loved her for 12 years, wanted to believe her. Wanted to think that people could change, that mistakes could be forgiven, that our family could survive intact. But the evidence sat in my email, in my bank records, in the case number assigned by the VA Office of Inspector General. I need time, I said. This isn't something I can just get over. I understand. She nodded quickly, eagerly. Take all the time you need. I'm not going anywhere. I'll wait as long as it takes. The irony would have been funny if it weren't so tragic. She thought time was on her side. Thought that eventually I'd soften, forgive, move forward. She had no idea that federal investigators were already reviewing my report. That within days, agents would start pulling her records, verifying her claims, building a case. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out. An email from an unfamiliar address with a Gov domain. Mr. Patterson, this is Special Agent Julie Brennan with the VA Office of Inspector General. I've been assigned to case VA OIG 2024-47832 regarding potential benefits fraud. I need to schedule a time to discuss your report in detail. Please call me at your earliest convenience. This matter is time-sensitive. A phone number followed. I looked up to find Jennifer watching me. Everything okay? Just work, I said, slipping the phone back into my pocket. I should probably take care of this. I stood and walked to my home office, closing the door behind me. My hands were steady as I dialed the number. Agent Brennan answered on the second ring. Mr. Patterson, thank you for calling back so quickly. Of course. I've reviewed your report and the supporting documentation. I need to verify some information before we proceed. You stated that your wife, Jennifer Marie Patterson, has been receiving VA disability benefits for approximately 4 years? That's correct. Monthly deposits of $2,147.14 since roughly 4 years ago. And you're certain she never served in the military? Positive. I've known her for 14 years, been married to her for 12. She's never mentioned service, never had military ID, never attended veteran events. Nothing. Did she ever explain where the money came from? I only discovered it 2 days ago while reviewing our finances for divorce proceedings. She doesn't know I found it. A pause. Mr. Patterson, what I'm about to tell you is sensitive. We've run a preliminary check on Jennifer Marie Patterson's Social Security number. She does have an active claim in our system for PTSD related to military sexual trauma. The claim was approved 4 years ago for 100% disability. My stomach dropped. But she never served. That's what we need to determine. The service records in our system show her as having served in the Army from 2008 to 2012, deployed to Afghanistan in 2010. Honorable discharge with combat-related PTSD diagnosis. That's impossible. In 2008, she was working as a dental hygienist in Austin. We started dating in 2010. She was here, not in Afghanistan. I have photos, witnesses, employment records. Then someone created very convincing false documentation. Agent Brennan's voice hardened. Mr. Patterson, I'm going to need you to come in tomorrow morning to provide a formal statement. Can you make yourself available at 9 a.m.? Yes. Bring everything. Photos from the time period she supposedly served. Employment records if you have them. Anything that proves she was in Texas during those years. And Mr. Patterson, don't tell your wife about this conversation. If she's alerted to the investigation, she may destroy evidence or attempt to flee. I understand. One more thing. If the records are fabricated, there's a good chance she didn't do this alone. Creating fake military service documentation requires access to systems and knowledge most civilians don't have. We'll need to identify any co-conspirators. The affair partner's face flashed through my mind. Young, confident, expensive watch. Someone with resources and connections. I may have information about that too, I said. The storage unit sat in a sprawling complex off Highway 183, wedged between a truck rental place and a discount mattress warehouse. I'd driven past this location 100 times without ever noticing it. Special Agent Brennan had obtained a federal warrant within 48 hours, faster than I'd expected, though she'd explained that veteran benefit fraud carried significant investigative priority. We'll need you to identify any items that belong to you or your household, Brennan said as we stood outside Unit 247. She wore plain clothes today, dark slacks and a windbreaker with VA OIG stenciled across the back. 2 other agents flanked her, both carrying evidence collection kits. The bolt cutters made quick work of Jennifer's padlock. The metal door rolled upward with a grinding shriek that set my teeth on edge. What we found inside made my stomach drop. The 10 by 10 space was meticulously organized. Plastic storage bins lined the walls, each labeled with black marker in Jennifer's precise handwriting. A folding table occupied the center, its surface covered with manila folders arranged in neat stacks. A corkboard leaned against the back wall, covered in photographs and documents connected by red string like something from a crime drama. Brennan pulled on latex gloves and approached the table first. She opened the top folder, scanned the contents, then looked at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. Mr. Patterson, you should wait outside. No. My voice came out harder than I intended. Whatever's in here, I need to see it. She hesitated, then nodded. Fair enough, but don't touch anything. The folders contained military personnel files, not just Jennifer's fabricated records, but documents for 7 other people. Each file was complete with DD-214 discharge papers, medical records, deployment orders, and VA disability claim forms. The names meant nothing to me at first. Robert Hayes, Michelle Tran, David Kowalski, James Butler, Patricia Webb, Anthony Green, Lisa Murphy. These are all real service members, one of the other agents said, his voice tight. I recognize 2 of these names from cross-reference checks we ran yesterday. Hayes and Tran both filed fraud reports last year, claiming someone had stolen their identities. Brennan moved to the plastic bins. The first one she opened contained laminated military ID cards, dozens of them, all with different faces and names. The second held what appeared to be medical equipment, arm slings, knee braces, a wheelchair folded in the corner. Staging props, Brennan muttered, for disability evaluations. My hands were shaking. I shoved them in my pockets and forced myself to keep looking, to understand the full scope of what Jennifer had been doing. The corkboard told the clearest story. Photographs of veterans. Some looked like they'd been pulled from social media, others from military databases. Handwritten notes detailed their service records, injury histories, and disability ratings. In the center, connected to everything else by multiple strings, was a photograph of a man I'd never seen before. Late 40s, graying hair, wearing an army dress uniform. "Who's that?" I asked, pointing. Brennan leaned closer, then pulled out her phone and snapped several pictures. "I don't know yet, but we're going to find out." The third agent was photographing the table when he called out, "Got something here?" He'd found a ledger beneath the folders, a composition notebook filled with columns of numbers and dates. Brennan took it carefully, flipping through pages. "This is a payment log," she said. "Looks like they've been running this scheme for at least 6 years, not 4. Multiple claims under different names, payments split between various accounts." She ran her finger down one page. "Your wife's claim was just one of many. They were pulling in over $12,000 a month across all the fraudulent files. 6 years. Before Emma started elementary school. Before we'd bought the house. I thought about every vacation we'd taken, every dinner out, every time Jennifer had suggested we splurge on something. How much of our life had been funded by stolen valor and fraud?" "Mr. Patterson," Brennan's voice pulled me back. "I need to ask, did your wife ever travel without you? Extended trips, maybe for work or to visit family?" I thought back. "She'd go to Colorado twice a year. Said she was visiting her sister, usually for 4 or 5 days at a time. Did you ever meet this sister?" The question hit me like cold water. "No. Jennifer said they weren't close, that the visits were more obligation than anything else." "We'll need that information. Full name, address if you have it." "I can get you what I have, but—" I trailed off, realizing I'd never actually confirmed the sister existed. I'd accepted Jennifer's word, never thought to verify. How many other lies had I swallowed without question? Brennan moved to the last set of bins. These contained documents I recognized, bank statements for the secret account I'd found, along with statements for 3 other accounts I'd never seen. There were also burner phones, still in their packaging, and a laptop secured with a combination lock. "We're going to need time to process all of this," Brennan said. "But based on what I'm seeing, your wife wasn't working alone. This level of organization, the access to military databases required to pull real service records, she had help from someone with inside knowledge. The man in the photograph, the one in the army uniform, connected to everything." "What happens now?" I asked. We document everything here, transport it to our evidence facility, and start building the case. We'll need to identify all the victims whose identities were stolen and notify them. The Financial Crimes Unit will trace the money, where it came from, where it went, who else benefited. She looked at me directly. This is going to get bigger before it's resolved. Your wife is looking at multiple federal charges: theft of government funds, identity theft, wire fraud, conspiracy. If we can prove she knew these were real veterans whose identities she was using, we can add aggravated identity theft. That's a mandatory 2-year sentence on top of everything else. I nodded, trying to process the magnitude of it all. Jennifer hadn't just betrayed me. She'd built an entire criminal enterprise on the backs of people who'd actually served their country, who'd actually been wounded and traumatized by war. The affair partner, I said. Could he be involved in this? We're operating under that assumption. The timing of when you discovered the affair and when we started investigating, if he's connected to the fraud scheme, he may have realized things were falling apart. Brennan gestured to the storage unit. We'll analyze everything here: phone records, financial transactions, travel patterns. If he's part of this, we'll find the connection. One of the other agents was on his phone, speaking in low tones. He finished the call and approached Brennan. Just heard back from the database team. That photo, the man in uniform, matches a Gerald Vance, former Army personnel specialist. He was dishonorably discharged 8 years ago for selling personal information of active duty service members. Did 18 months in federal prison, released 4 years ago. 4 years ago, when Jennifer's VA payments started. Brennan's expression hardened. Get me everything on Vance: current address, known associates, employment history since release, and cross-reference his information with Jennifer Patterson's travel records and financial transactions. The pieces were coming together, forming a picture far uglier than I'd imagined. Jennifer hadn't just committed fraud on impulse or out of desperation. She'd partnered with a convicted criminal, built a systematic operation to exploit the VA system, and maintained it for years while playing the role of devoted wife and mother. How long until you arrest her? I asked. Soon. We need to secure a few more pieces of evidence, interview Vance if we can locate him, and coordinate with the U.S. Attorney's Office. Days, not weeks. Brennan paused. You should prepare yourself. Once we move, this becomes very public very quickly. The media pays attention to veteran benefit fraud cases. I thought about Emma, about how she'd handle seeing her mother's face on the news, learning what Jennifer had done. My daughter deserved better than this. Better than a father who'd been too blind to see the truth. Better than a mother who'd chosen greed and deception over her own family. Do what you need to do, I said. These veterans deserve justice. Brennan nodded. We'll be in touch within 48 hours. In the meantime, maintain your normal routine. Don't confront your wife about what we found here. If she suspects we're closing in, she might run or destroy additional evidence. I left them to their work and walked back to my car. The afternoon sun felt too bright, the traffic noise too loud. Everything felt surreal, like I was watching my life from outside my own body. My phone buzzed. A text from Jennifer. Picking up Emma from school. Making her favorite dinner tonight. Will you join us? I stared at the message, at the casual domesticity of it, the performance of normalcy. She had no idea that federal agents were currently cataloging evidence of her crimes, that her carefully constructed fraud scheme was unraveling. I typed back, I'll be there. The next morning, I sat in my car outside the school where I'd just dropped Emma off, watching her disappear through the doors with her backpack bouncing against her shoulders. She'd chattered the whole drive about an upcoming field trip to the Science Museum, oblivious to the investigation quietly tightening around her mother like a noose. My phone buzzed. Julie Brennan. "We've identified the man from your bedroom," she said without preamble. "His name is Travis Kemp, age 32, works as a sales manager for a medical supply company. And David, he's Gerald Vance's younger half-brother." The parking lot seemed to tilt slightly. "So it's not just an affair." "No. We pulled Travis's financials this morning. He's been receiving regular deposits, $5,000 monthly, from an LLC registered in Delaware. That same LLC has been paying Jennifer's storage unit fees. We're still tracing the ownership structure, but everything points back to Vance as the architect." I gripped the steering wheel. Travis was the inside man, keeping her committed to the scheme. More than that, we think he was her handler. The affair gave him leverage, emotional control, a way to monitor her, ensure she didn't get cold feet or try to cut Vance out. It's a common pattern in long-term fraud conspiracies. The romantic relationship creates dependency. My stomach turned. Jennifer hadn't just betrayed me for passion or excitement. She'd been managed, manipulated into a criminal enterprise through calculated seduction. "We've placed surveillance on Travis," Julie continued. "He's been making calls to a burner phone we believe belongs to Vance. We're hoping to locate Vance through the cell tower data, but he's being careful. Never keeps the phone on for more than a few minutes at a time." "What about Jennifer? When are you moving on her?" "Soon. We're coordinating with the U.S. Attorney's Office. They want to bring charges against all three simultaneously: Jennifer, Travis, and Vance. Maximum impact, minimum chance for anyone to destroy evidence or flee. But David, I need to prepare you for something." I waited, watching a crossing guard help a group of kindergarteners navigate the crosswalk. "When we arrest Jennifer, it's going to be public. Federal agents at your home, possibly news coverage given the nature of the crime. Stolen valor cases generate significant media attention, especially when they involve this level of systematic fraud. You need to think about Emma, how you're going to explain this to her, who can support her when it happens." I'd been avoiding this mental image for days. Federal agents handcuffing Jennifer in our driveway while neighbors watched. Emma coming home from school to find her mother gone. Her father trying to explain the inexplicable. "My parents live in Dallas," I said. "They can come stay with us. Emma's close to them." "Good. I'd recommend having them here before the arrest. We're looking at Friday morning, 2 days from now. Early, around 6 a.m., before Jennifer leaves for work. We'll execute search warrants simultaneously at your house, Travis Kemp's apartment, and 2 locations we believe are connected to Vance. Friday, 48 hours. Will I need to be there? You'll need to be present for the search, yes. We'll need to secure Jennifer's computer, phone, any documents related to the fraud. But we'll coordinate with you. Make sure Emma isn't in the house when we arrive. Can you arrange for her to sleep at a friend's house Thursday night?" I thought of Emma's best friend, Chloe, who lived 3 streets over. The girls had sleepovers regularly. "I can make that work." "I know this is difficult," Julie said, her voice softening slightly. "But you're doing the right thing. These people stole from veterans, real service members who sacrificed for this country. Some of the identities Jennifer used belong to soldiers who died in combat. Their families are still dealing with that grief, and then they discover someone's been fraudulently claiming benefits in their loved one's name. The weight of that settled over me. I'd been so focused on Jennifer's betrayal of our marriage that I hadn't fully processed the broader victims. Families who'd already lost everything, violated again by strangers stealing their tragedy for profit. One of the identities in the storage unit, Julie continued, belongs to Sergeant Michael Ortiz. He was killed by an IED in Kandahar in 2011. Jennifer's been claiming benefits using his service record for 5 years. His widow, Patricia, lives in San Antonio. She had no idea until we contacted her yesterday. I closed my eyes. How did she react? About how you'd expect? Anger, devastation? She wants to be there when we prosecute. She's already contacted an attorney about filing a civil suit. Good, she should. There are 6 other families we've identified so far. All of them want justice. The U.S. Attorney is planning to have several of them present at the arraignment, put faces to the crimes. Make it clear this wasn't victimless fraud. We talked logistics for a few more minutes. Julie explained that I'd need to keep acting normally until Friday morning. No confronting Jennifer, no changes to routine that might alert her. The federal case depended on catching all 3 conspirators simultaneously, before anyone could warn the others. After we hung up, I sat in the parking lot for another 10 minutes, watching parents drop off late-arriving students. Normal Wednesday morning routines. Soccer practice schedules and parent-teacher conferences. None of them knew that in 2 days, federal agents would be swarming our quiet neighborhood. I called my parents from the car. My mother answered on the second ring. David, is everything all right? You usually don't call this early. Mom, I need you and Dad to come to Austin, tomorrow if possible, and I need you to stay for a while, maybe a few weeks. Silence. Then, carefully, what's happened? I told her everything. The affair, the fraud, the federal investigation. My mother, who'd always liked Jennifer, who'd welcomed her into our family 12 years ago with genuine warmth, listened without interrupting. When I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. Then, we'll be there tomorrow afternoon. And David, Emma's going to need stability, consistency. Whatever happens with Jennifer, that little girl needs to know her world isn't completely falling apart. I know. Have you told Emma anything yet? Just that Jennifer and I are having problems. She knows we're probably getting divorced. But the rest? I don't know how to explain it, Mom. How do I tell her that her mother is a criminal? That she's been lying about everything? You tell her the truth in age-appropriate language. You don't make Jennifer the villain, but you don't lie to protect her either. Emma's smart. She'll know if you're being dishonest, and that'll damage her trust in you. My mother had been an elementary school counselor for 30 years before retiring. If anyone understood how to talk to children about trauma, it was her. Bring her to us tomorrow evening, she continued. Let her spend time with us while you handle the immediate crisis. Then, when you're ready, we'll talk to her together. As a family. I felt something loosen in my chest. I wasn't alone in this. Emma would have support beyond just me. That afternoon, I picked Emma up from school as usual. She climbed into the car with her typical explosion of energy, talking about a math test she'd aced and a disagreement with a friend over a group project. Is Mom home? She asked as we pulled into the driveway. She's at work. Won't be back until 6. Jennifer's car was indeed gone. She'd left for her shift at the dental office around noon, same as always. Maintaining her routine, unaware that federal agents were building an airtight case against her. Inside, I made Emma a snack while she started her homework at the kitchen table. I watched her work through multiplication problems, her tongue poking out slightly in concentration, a habit she'd had since she was 5. In 2 days, her life would change forever. The mother she loved would be arrested, charged with federal crimes, likely sent to prison. Our family would be dissected in news coverage. Her friends' parents would whisper. She'd have to navigate middle school next year as the daughter of a convicted felon. And there was nothing I could do to protect her from any of it. Dad? Emma looked up from her worksheet. Are you okay? You look sad. I managed a smile. Just thinking about work stuff. Hey, how would you feel about a sleepover at Chloe's house Thursday night? Her face lit up. Really? Can I? I'll call her mom. And guess what? Grandma and Grandpa are coming to visit tomorrow. They'll be here for a few weeks. Awesome. Can we take them to the park? Grandpa promised to teach me how to throw a curveball. Absolutely. She returned to her homework, satisfied. I pulled out my phone and texted Chloe's mother, Ashley, asking about Thursday. She responded within minutes. Of course, Emma could stay over. The girls would love it. One piece in place. Friday morning was coming, inevitable as a storm on the horizon. And when it arrived, nothing would ever be the same. The Wednesday morning sun cut through the kitchen blinds in sharp, geometric patterns. I stood at the counter, making Emma's lunch with the same mechanical precision I'd used every school morning for the past 5 years. Turkey sandwich, apple slices, granola bar, juice box. Normal. Everything had to look normal. Emma sat at the table working through her bowl of cereal while scrolling through something on her tablet. 10 years old and already fluent in the language of screens. Jennifer had left for work 20 minutes ago. Early shift at the dental office, she'd said. More likely coordinating with Travis about whatever endgame they thought they still had. Dad? Emma's voice pulled me back. You're putting in 2 sandwiches. I looked down. She was right. I'd made 2 identical turkey sandwiches and stuffed them both into her lunchbox. Guess I'm on autopilot, I said, forcing a smile as I pulled one out. Long week. It's only Wednesday. Exactly. She gave me that look, the one that said she knew something was off but couldn't quite put her finger on it. Kids are perceptive that way. They sense the tremors before the earthquake hits. My phone buzzed. Text from my mother. Landed in Dallas. Rental car secured. Should be there by 2 p.m. How are you holding up? I typed back, fine, drive safe. The lie came easily now. I'd been living in lies for so long. Jennifer's lies, my own necessary deceptions, that one more barely registered. Grandma and Grandpa are coming today, I told Emma, packing up her lunch. They'll pick you up from school. Her face lit up. Really? For how long? Few days. Thought it would be nice to have them visit. Is everything okay? There it was again. That perceptiveness. Everything's fine, sweetheart. They just wanted to see you. It's been since summer, right? She nodded, seemingly satisfied, and went back to her cereal. I watched her for a moment. Really watched her. The way she tucked her hair behind her ear when she concentrated. The small scar on her chin from when she'd fallen off her bike at 6. The easy contentment of a child whose world hadn't shattered yet. 48 hours. In 48 hours, federal agents would arrest her mother for fraud, identity theft, and conspiracy. The news would break. The neighbors would talk. Emma's friends' parents would whisper. And I'd have to find words to explain the unexplainable. My phone buzzed again. Different number. Agent Brennan. Vance made contact with burner phone last night. 11:47 p.m. Call to Travis Kemp, 3 minutes. Still tracking location, but he's using cell tower triangulation countermeasures. Smart. Friday timeline unchanged. I deleted the message and slipped the phone back into my pocket. The office felt surreal. People moved through their routines, meetings, coffee runs, deadline discussions, while I sat at my desk knowing that in 2 days, my entire life would become public spectacle. Kevin from accounting stopped by to discuss the quarterly projections. Amanda wanted input on the new client proposal. Everything normal. Everything false. I'd taken exactly 3 personal days in 12 years with the company. Never missed a deadline, never dropped a ball. The model employee, building the model life. What a joke that had turned out to be. David, my manager, Robert, stood in my cubicle entrance. Got a minute? I followed him to his office, that familiar spike of anxiety hitting, despite everything else going on. Old habits. Close the door, he said. I did. Robert was 52, divorced twice, with a reputation for being direct. He leaned back in his chair and studied me for a moment. You look like hell, he said finally. Thanks. I'm serious. You've been off all week. Yesterday, you stared at the same spreadsheet for 40 minutes without changing a single cell. Today you're here, but you're not here. What's going on? I'd prepared for this, had the script ready. Family stuff, nothing that'll affect my work. Everything affects work eventually, he paused. You've got 2 weeks of vacation banked. More if we count the comp time from the Anderson project. Take some days. I'm fine. That wasn't a suggestion. His voice softened slightly. Look, I don't need details, but I've seen that look before, on my own face twice. Whatever's happening at home, you need space to deal with it. Take next week. Hell, take 2. We'll manage. The kindness caught me off guard. I'd been running on anger and adrenaline for so long that simple human decency felt foreign. Next week, I said. I'll take next week. Good. And David? Whatever it is. Lawyer up if you haven't already. I almost laughed. If he only knew. My parents arrived at 2:15, pulling into the driveway in their rental sedan. I watched from the living room window as my father unloaded 2 suitcases. They'd packed for an extended stay. My mother spotted me through the window, and her face did that thing mothers' faces do when they know their child is hurting. Instant concern, instant readiness to fix whatever's broken. Except this couldn't be fixed. I met them at the door. My mother hugged me hard, the way she had when I was young and had scraped my knee or lost a baseball game. My father gripped my shoulder, his version of the same sentiment. Where's Emma? My mother asked, releasing me. School. Gets out at 3:30. I figured you'd want to pick her up. She's excited you're here. And Jennifer? Work. Won't be home until 6. My father's jaw tightened. He'd never particularly liked Jennifer, though he'd been too polite to say so outright. Something about her had always struck him as performative. Turned out his instincts were better than mine. We moved to the kitchen. My mother started making coffee without asking, familiar enough with my house to know where everything was kept. My father sat at the table, hands folded, waiting. Tell us, he said. So I did. Not everything. They didn't need the full scope yet, but enough. The affair. The fake VA disability claim. The federal investigation. The arrest scheduled for Friday morning. My mother's hand went to her mouth. My father's expression darkened in a way I'd rarely seen. Emma, my mother whispered. Does she know? Nothing, and she can't. Not until after. I rubbed my face. That's why I needed you here. Friday morning when they come for Jennifer, Emma needs to be somewhere else, somewhere safe, with people she trusts. The sleepover, my father said, understanding clicking into place. You arranged it. Her friend Kayla's house. Good family. They've had Emma over before. She'll be there Thursday night through Saturday morning. By the time she comes home, I didn't finish. Didn't need to. How are you holding up? My mother asked, setting coffee cups in front of us. I'm not, I said simply. But I don't have the luxury of falling apart yet. Emma needs normal until Friday. Jennifer can't suspect anything's wrong. The investigators need everything to go smoothly, so I'm holding. And after? After, I don't know. Divorce will be straightforward. Brian says no judge will give her anything close to custody given the circumstances. But Emma's going to need therapy, probably years of it. And I'll need to figure out how to be enough for her when her whole understanding of her mother gets destroyed. My father reached across the table and gripped my hand. You're not alone in this. The coffee maker beeped. My mother poured 3 cups. We sat in silence for a moment, the weight of everything settling over us. What do you need from us? My father asked. Just be here. Be normal for Emma. She's going to need you both when this breaks. What about you? My mother pressed. What do you need? I thought about that. What did I need? Justice was coming. The truth was coming out. But what did I actually need? I need her to pay, I said quietly. Jennifer, I need her to face what she's done. Not just to me, but to those veterans, to their families, to Emma. She will, my father said with certainty. Federal fraud charges? She will. My phone buzzed. Text from Emma's school. Reminder, early dismissal tomorrow for teacher planning. Pick up at 1:30 p.m. I'd completely forgotten. Change of plans, I said, showing them the message. Emma's out early tomorrow. Can you get her at 1:30? Of course, my mother said. We'll take her somewhere fun. Keep her occupied. Thank you. The afternoon stretched ahead. Hours until Emma came home. Until I had to put on the performance again. Normal, Dad. Stable home. Everything fine. 2 more days. Friday morning arrived with the kind of crystalline autumn clarity that felt almost mocking. I stood in the driveway at 5:45, watching 3 black SUVs roll silently down our street. My parents had taken Emma to their hotel the night before, a last-minute special grandparent sleepover that she'd accepted with excited enthusiasm. She had no idea her world was about to fracture. Agent Brennan stepped out of the lead vehicle, followed by 6 other federal agents in windbreakers marked VAOIG and FBI. The coordination between agencies had expanded as the investigation deepened. What started as benefits fraud had metastasized into a multi-agency case involving identity theft, wire fraud, conspiracy, and stolen valor. Mr. Patterson, Brennan nodded to me. Is she inside? Upstairs, still asleep. Jennifer had come home late the night before, claiming a work emergency. I'd pretended to believe her, pretended everything was normal, even kissed her goodnight out of pure habit. The performance had become so practiced I barely felt the revulsion anymore. We'll need you to wait out here, Brennan said, for your safety and to preserve the integrity of the arrest. I stepped aside and watched them enter my home. The house Jennifer and I had picked out together 8 years ago, where we'd raised our daughter, where I'd believed we were building something real. The irony wasn't lost on me. 4 minutes later, I heard Jennifer's voice, sharp with panic and confusion. What is this? David! David! I didn't move, didn't respond. Just stood in the driveway as the sun crept over the neighbor's roof. They brought her out in handcuffs, still in her pajamas, her face a mask of shock and fury. When she saw me standing there, something shifted in her expression. Realization, maybe, or the final death of whatever lies she'd been telling herself. "You did this," she said, her voice venomous. "You called them." "No," I said quietly. "You did this. 6 years ago when you decided to steal from people who actually serve their country. I just made sure you faced the consequences. I gave you everything. 12 years of my life. You gave me lies." I kept my voice level, aware that neighbors were starting to emerge from their homes, drawn by the commotion. "And you stole from veterans, from families who'd already lost everything. You don't get to play the victim here." They loaded her into the SUV. She was still shouting, but I'd stopped listening. Agent Brennan approached me with a tablet. "We've arrested Travis Kemp at his apartment. Caught him trying to wipe his laptop. Our tech team stopped him in time. We're still looking for Gerald Vance, but we've frozen his accounts and issued a federal warrant. He won't stay hidden long." "What happens now?" "Arraignment this afternoon. The U.S. Attorney is pushing for no bail. Flight risk, ongoing conspiracy, danger of evidence destruction. Given the scope of the fraud and the number of victims, I'd say they'll get it." She paused. "There's something else you should know. We found evidence in Jennifer's email that she was planning to leave the country. 2 one-way tickets to Costa Rica, purchased 3 weeks ago. Departure date was next Tuesday." The information settled over me like cold water. She'd been planning to run. To take Emma and disappear, leaving me with nothing but questions and an empty house. "Did she—" I couldn't finish the question. "The second ticket was for Emma," Brennan confirmed gently. "No ticket for you. She was going to take your daughter and vanish." I sat down on the porch steps, legs suddenly unsteady. All those weeks of Jennifer's reconciliation campaign, the tears and promises and pleas for another chance. It had all been theater, buying time to execute her escape plan. "I'm sorry," Brennan said. "I know that doesn't help, but I am." After they left, I sat alone in the driveway for 20 minutes, watching the neighborhood slowly return to normal. Mrs. Lopez from across the street ventured over, concern written on her face. "David, is everything all right?" "We saw the police." "Federal agents," I corrected. "Jennifer's been arrested for fraud. It's going to be in the news soon. I wanted you to hear it from me first." Her hand went to her mouth. "Oh my God. Emma is with my parents. She's safe. She doesn't know yet." Mrs. Lopez sat down beside me on the steps. We'd been neighbors for 6 years. Our daughters had played together as toddlers. She'd brought us casseroles when Emma had the flu, had watered our plants when we vacationed. "If you need anything," she said finally. "Anything at all. We're here." I nodded, not trusting my voice. The news broke that afternoon. Local stations picked it up first. Austin woman arrested in multi-million-dollar veterans benefits fraud scheme. But by evening, it had gone national. The stolen valor angle made it irresistible to cable news. Jennifer's booking photo appeared on screen after screen, accompanied by details of the 7 veterans whose identities she'd stolen, the families she'd victimized, the systematic nature of the fraud. I turned off the television and drove to my parents' hotel. Emma was in the pool with my father, practicing her backstroke, blissfully unaware. My mother met me in the lobby. "It's time," I said. We sat Emma down in their hotel room. She was wrapped in a towel, hair dripping, still smiling from her swim. That smile faded as she looked between the 3 of us. "What's wrong?" Her voice was small. "Where's Mom?" I'd rehearsed this 100 times in my head, had consulted with a child psychologist Brian had recommended. But sitting there, looking at my daughter's trusting face, every prepared word evaporated. Emma, something's happened. Your mom made some very serious mistakes. She broke the law, and she's been arrested. Her eyes went wide. Arrested? Like, jail? Yes, sweetheart. She's going to have to go to court, and she'll probably have to go to jail for a while. But why? What did she do? I kept it simple, age-appropriate. She took money that didn't belong to her. Money that was supposed to help soldiers who got hurt in the war. She pretended to be someone she wasn't to get that money, and that's against the law. Emma processed this, her 10-year-old mind working through implications. Is she coming home? Not for a long time. Is it because of you? Because you guys were fighting? No, baby. This is about choices your mom made. Bad choices that hurt a lot of people. The tears came then. My mother moved to hold her, but Emma pulled away, standing up with her towel clutched around her. I want to see her. You will, I promised. When things settle down, we'll arrange visits. But right now, she's with the police and we can't. This is your fault. The words exploded out of her. You're always working, you're never home, and now you're sending her to jail. The accusation hit harder than I'd expected. My mother started to intervene, but I held up a hand. Emma, I know you're angry. I know this is scary and confusing, but your mom made her own choices. I didn't make her break the law. I didn't make her steal from people who needed help. I hate you. She ran to the bathroom and slammed the door. My mother touched my shoulder. Give her time. She's processing. I know. But knowing didn't make it hurt less. The arraignment happened Monday afternoon. I attended, sitting in the back of the federal courtroom with Agent Brennan. Jennifer appeared in an orange jumpsuit, her hair unwashed, her face pale. Travis Kemp was arraigned separately. Gerald Vance had been arrested in Mexico over the weekend, caught trying to cross into Belize. The U.S. attorney laid out the charges: 18 counts of theft of government funds, 12 counts of identity theft, 6 counts of wire fraud, conspiracy to commit fraud, and aggravated identity theft. The dollar amount exceeded $2 million when they included all the fraudulent claims across all the stolen identities. Jennifer's public defender requested bail. The prosecutor objected, citing the Costa Rica tickets and flight risk. The judge agreed. No bail. Jennifer would remain in federal custody until trial. As they led her out, Jennifer's eyes found mine across the courtroom. No anger this time, just emptiness. The reality had finally penetrated. 6 of the victim families attended. Patricia Ortiz, widow of the sergeant whose identity Jennifer had stolen, sat in the front row. When the judge read the charges related to her husband's stolen service record, she wept quietly. I wanted to approach her afterward, to apologize somehow, but what could I possibly say? Sorry my wife desecrated your husband's memory for profit? Instead, I left through the side exit and drove home alone. The divorce was finalized 4 months later. Brian had been right. No judge was giving Jennifer anything close to custody from federal prison. I got the house, full custody of Emma, and division of only the legitimate assets we'd accumulated. The fraudulent money had been seized by the government, earmarked for restitution to the victims. Jennifer pleaded guilty in February to avoid trial. The prosecution had too much evidence: the storage unit, the ledgers, Travis Kemp's cooperation agreement, financial records showing exactly where every stolen dollar went. Fighting it would have been futile. The sentencing hearing was in March. I attended with Emma, who'd asked to be there. She was 11 now, taller, quieter than she'd been 6 months ago. Therapy was helping, but she'd lost something ineffable. That easy childhood trust that the adults in her life would protect her from the world's ugliness. The judge sentenced Jennifer to 12 years in federal prison, with credit for time served. Travis Kemp got 8 years for cooperation. Gerald Vance, the architect, got 25. Patricia Ortiz gave a victim impact statement that left the courtroom in tears. She described learning of her husband's death, the grief that never fully healed, and then the violation of discovering someone had stolen his identity to commit fraud. "He died serving his country," she said, her voice breaking. "And you used his death to steal. There's a special kind of evil in that." Jennifer cried through the whole proceeding. Her attorney read a statement on her behalf. Apologies, expressions of remorse, claims that she'd been manipulated by Vance and Travis. Maybe some of it was even true. But it didn't matter. The consequences were the same. As we left the courthouse, Emma slipped her hand into mine. "Dad, do you think Mom really is sorry?" I thought about that. About the woman I'd married, the lies she'd told, the life she'd built on stolen valor and fraud, about the Costa Rica tickets and the plan to take my daughter and disappear. "I think she's sorry she got caught," I said honestly. "Whether she's sorry for what she did, I don't know, sweetheart. Maybe someday she will be." Emma nodded, processing. "Can we go home now?" "Yeah, we can go home." 2 years later, I stood in Emma's room helping her pack for summer camp. She was 13 now, navigating middle school with the kind of resilience that amazed me daily. The therapy had helped. So had time. So had the stability of routine. Just the two of us, my parents visiting regularly, a life rebuilt from honest foundations. "Dad, have you seen my blue hoodie?" Emma called from her closet. "Laundry room." She emerged a moment later, hoodie in hand, and flopped onto her bed. "Thanks for letting me do the 2-week session. I know it's expensive." "You earned it. Straight A's all year." She smiled. A real smile. The kind I'd worried I might never see again after everything that happened. We'd visited Jennifer twice in federal prison. Awkward, painful visits where Emma asked questions her mother couldn't adequately answer. After the second visit, Emma had asked if we could stop going. I'd agreed. Maybe someday she'd want to reconnect. Maybe not. Either way, I'd support her choice. "Hey, Dad?" Emma's voice pulled me back to the present. "Do you think you'll ever get married again?" The question caught me off guard. "I don't know. Maybe someday." "Why?" "Ashley's dad is getting remarried. She says it's weird but also kind of nice, having more family." I sat down on the edge of her bed. "Would that bother you, if I dated someone?" She considered it, her face serious. "I don't think so, as long as they're not like Mom, as long as they're honest." "That's a pretty low bar," I said, trying for levity. "You'd be surprised." She said it with the world weariness of someone twice her age. "Lots of people lie, about big stuff and small stuff. Mrs. Reeves says it's because they're afraid of consequences, but I think sometimes people just like lying. It makes them feel powerful or something." Mrs. Reeves was her therapist. Apparently, they'd been having some deep conversations. "You're probably right," I said. "But there are honest people, too. People who tell the truth even when it's hard. Even when it costs them something." "Like you," Emma said simply. "You could have pretended you didn't know about Mom's stuff. Let her keep stealing. But you didn't. That wouldn't have been right." "I know. That's what I mean. She sat up, hugging her hoodie. I'm glad you're my dad. Even though everything got messed up, I'm glad it's you and me. I pulled her into a hug, this almost teenager who'd survived more than any kid should have to. Me too, Em. Me too. The civil suits took 3 years to fully resolve. Patricia Ortiz and the other victim families sued Jennifer's estate, what little there was of it, and won judgments totaling over $3 million. They'd never see most of that money, but the principle mattered. Acknowledgement. Justice. The recognition that what had been done to them was wrong. I testified in 2 of the cases, providing documentation of Jennifer's fraud and the timeline of my discovery. Sitting across from those families, seeing their pain and anger, reinforced something I'd come to understand. My betrayal was real and significant, but it paled compared to theirs. I'd lost a marriage built on lies. They'd lost loved ones to war and then had those losses violated for profit. The last case settled in April, 5 years after that Tuesday afternoon when I'd come home early and found Jennifer in our bedroom with Travis Kemp. 5 years of investigations, trials, appeals, and civil litigation. 5 years of rebuilding. Emma was 15 now, a high school freshman with her mother's eyes, but I hoped my sense of right and wrong. She'd stopped visiting Jennifer entirely after the first year. Jennifer had written letters, dozens of them, but Emma rarely responded. That was her choice to make, and I refused to force it. On the 5-year anniversary of Jennifer's arrest, I took Emma to the Texas State Veterans Cemetery. We'd come several times before, always to the same grave. Sergeant Michael Ortiz, killed in action, Kandahar Province, Afghanistan, 2011. Patricia Ortiz had invited us after the civil trial concluded. You didn't do this, she'd said, but you stopped it. That matters. We laid flowers on the grave, yellow roses, Michael's favorite according to Patricia. Emma stood quietly, reading the inscription on the headstone. He was only 26, she said softly. That's so young. Yeah, it is. Mom stole from him, from his memory. She did. Emma was quiet for a long moment. Then, I'm glad she's in prison. Is that bad? To be glad your own mom is in jail? I chose my words carefully. I think it's natural to have complicated feelings about it. You can love who you thought she was and still be glad she's facing consequences for what she did. I don't know if I love her anymore, Emma admitted. Sometimes I try to remember good stuff, like when she'd make pancakes on Saturdays or help me with school projects. But then I remember it was all fake. She was lying the whole time. Not everything was fake, I said, though I wasn't entirely sure I believed it. I think she loved you in her own way. She just loved money and herself more. Emma nodded, wiping her eyes. Can we go now? Yeah, sweetheart, we can go. As we walked back to the car, I thought about the question Emma had asked 2 years ago. Would I ever get married again? I'd started dating someone recently, Karen, a project manager at a different firm, divorced with 2 kids of her own. It was slow, careful, built on honesty and clear communication. Emma liked her. That mattered more than anything else. But I'd learned something through all of this, something that had cost me 12 years of my life and nearly destroyed my daughter's childhood. Trust isn't given freely. It's earned through consistency, honesty, and the willingness to face consequences when you fail. Jennifer had failed spectacularly. She'd chosen deception over integrity, greed over honor, and in doing so, she'd lost everything that actually mattered: her freedom, her family, her daughter's love. The news coverage had died down years ago. Occasionally, someone would recognize my name and make the connection, but mostly, Emma and I had faded back into anonymity. We were just another single-parent household in suburban Austin, navigating homework and teenage drama and the ordinary challenges of life. Except we both knew the truth beneath that normalcy. We knew how quickly everything could fall apart, how people you trusted could betray you, how lies could metastate into federal crimes and shattered families. But we also knew something else. That honesty matters. That consequences matter. That doing the right thing, even when it costs you everything, is still the right thing. Jennifer would be eligible for parole in 3 more years. I didn't know if she'd reach out when she was released, didn't know if Emma would want contact with her. That was a bridge we'd cross when we came to it. For now, we had dinner to make and homework to finish and a life to live. A life built on truth instead of lies, on earned trust instead of blind faith. And if I'd learned anything from the wreckage of my marriage, it was this. You can't build anything lasting on a foundation of deception. Eventually, the weight of lies becomes too much, and everything comes crashing down. The only question is whether you'll be the one standing in the rubble or whether you'll have the courage to walk away before the collapse. I chose to walk away, and in doing so, I saved my daughter and myself from being buried in Jennifer's avalanche of lies. That, in the end, was enough.